You're listening to Hashtag No Filter with Zack Peter. That's me. I'm Zack Peter, and I'm doing another mini episode to cover all of this Vanderpump Rules drama, crazy, like who knows what's going on with Vanderpump Rules. So I thought I would give us a little update on where we stand since the cancellation news came out over the weekend. So everything's like a little bit up in the air, but let me just briefly recap you on where things are at with the current updates, because now Andy Cohen has spoken out and people are like, oh, Andy Cohen's spoken out and this means Vanderpump Rules is not canceled. Let me just say Andy Cohen has not confirmed anything, and we'll break it down right now. Okay, so first of all, to recap, Tamara Tattles announced last week that there was a Zoom meeting last Tuesday that Vanderpump Rules has officially been canceled and that Bravo is not moving forward with the series. Okay, got it. Then later in the week, Jax and Brittany ended up quitting, or they were fired. They're saying that they quit. Reports are saying that they were fired. I don't think that there was ever really a possible scenario where Bravo could have brought them back, considering, well, I mean, then again, there was a lot of backlash about people being upset that Kelly Dodd was brought back onto the show and in Real Housewives of OC. So I guess there was a possibility that they would bring Jax and Brittany back, but I also feel like that would seem really hypocritical considering his connection to the whole Faith Stowers scandal, and if we're letting Stassi and Kristen go because of that. I mean, I know we let Stassi go because of other comments she made on her podcasts, but when it comes specifically to Kristen, who was let go for that reason, and then we had Max and Brett who were let go for some of the tweets that they have sent out, it just seems like the standard, there would have been a double standard had we allowed Jax to come back on the show. So again, all I know is there was really no opportunity, whether Jax wants to say that he was fired, say that he quit, or whether Bravo wants to say that they let him go. Either way, I don't think there was ever really much of a possibility for Jax and Brittany to return to the show regardless. They're gone. Now, I think that they decided that I think it was a smart PR move for them to announce it and for them to say that they have actually quit the show. Now, I know Jezebel released I hate Jezebel, by the way. I don't like them. I don't even want to give them the promotion, but if you want to see it, go to Ryan Bailey's Instagram account, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, at So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey on Instagram or on Twitter. You can see screenshots of the headline there. It's actually really funny. They drag Jax in a headline and have these photos of him riding this little beer cart, and then have photos of like these paparazzi photos of Brittany, which we've now learned that they were actually staged photos and not authentic them like out and about. They were, again, staged PR photos, which are also coincidentally coming out around the same time that they announced that they had quit the show. So I think that this is all sort of a orchestrated move from their PR teams. Jax and Brittany are gone. Tamara Tattles announced that the show had officially been canceled and scrapped, and that the decision was made last Tuesday. Now, Andy Cohen has since spoken out on his show, Radio Andy, or what is the name of... Is his show called Radio Andy? I know that's the network that the sub-network of Sirius XM is called Radio Andy. But anyway, so Andy has spoken out. He said, so I want to clarify that he didn't actually confirm that the show is coming back. And I want to remind people that he isn't an executive producer or any sort of producer on Vanderpump Rules at all. He is a producer for the Housewives and has a lot more control over Housewives. I think he's really downplayed what his role and participation with Vanderpump Rules actually is. I know when Stassi and Kristen were fired and let go from the show, he kind of said, oh, I have no say. I didn't make that decision. I can't save them, or whatever the case may be. And I think there is a lot of truth to that, but I think he does pull a lot more influence within the network, that if he really wanted to save a cast member or save the show, I think him putting in his feedback and his opinion, I think it would really be heavy-handed and people would actually listen to him because he is so influential in Bravo land. Now, let's get to what he actually said on his show. He said that he's excited for there to be a shift in the cast, which naturally there would be because there's no Stassi, Kristen, Brett, Max, Jax, or Brittany, and I really don't think they're bringing Danica back at all, considering all of her, domestic violence allegations from her ex. So I think all of them are officially dunzos. So yes, there would be some sort of shift, and we'll get into what that shift would actually look like a little bit later. And then he also said that he doesn't know when filming will be starting again, which basically means that the fate of the show is still up in the air. So this means that I think he's saying that there hasn't been an official decision that's actually been made. But let's get back to like what Tamara is talking about and then the Kate Casey of it all. So after Tamara announced this, she basically said that the decision had been made to table the project and that the talent options, which are basically their contracts to be renewed as talent on Vanderpump Rules, that those were set to be expiring. And so those expire, I believe it's next week, because what's today? Today's December 8th. I believe those expire on or around the 15th or the 16th of December. So those, by the end of next week, will officially be done if they haven't been renewed. And it doesn't look like they're going to be renewing any of those contracts. And so, I mean, I don't think they even could, Bravo or Evolution, I don't think they could renew the contracts even if they wanted to, because they have no way of being able to film the show. As we've seen here in Los Angeles, the restaurants have continued to be closed down. We never had indoor dining this year. It was only outdoor dining, and very limited capacity. And so now we're seeing that they just got shut down again, at least for the next few weeks. So there's really a lot of uncertainty. So if Bravo and Evolution are looking to focus the show around the restaurants, that's all still up in the air. So there's a really good chance that none of the cast contracts will be picked up when they expire, and they're going to expire by the end of the month. So going into January, none of the cast will be under contract. However, so I do know, so according to my own, actually before I get to my stuff, so after Tamara Tattles announced that, Kate Casey then went out and she's like, nope, you're wrong. And it was like a gangster fight on Twitter, even though they both claim that they still love each other and they like each other. I don't know what their relationship is. I personally don't know Tamara Tattles. I have recently followed on Twitter, and I mean, I've read some of the articles in the past, but I don't know the person that runs Tamara Tattles personally. I do know Kate Casey. I've had Kate Casey on this show before. I love Kate Casey's. I've always talked about how much I love her Facebook group and the tea that gets spilled in there. And I think she has really good connections within sources close to production at Bravo and just reality TV in general. Kate is saying that the show hasn't been canceled, that she has a source that claims that it's definitely going to be back and likely going to be picking up again, filming in the spring, likely in April. So we have Kate and we have Andy who are saying that there's a good chance that filming will be picked up again. What I do know is the show has not been officially greenlit or renewed, and that none of the cast members have actually been renewed. As I can confirm, according to my own sources, that all of the cast is like currently left in the dark right now, and nobody really knows what's happening with Vanderpump Rules or when it's going to start again, if it's going to start again. And so what I do know is they're basically going to be, released from their contracts later this month, but they will still be under a non-compete agreement for the next year. So as of next June is when they'll be released from their non-compete. And basically what a non-compete agreement means is that they can't necessarily film another show about all of their friendships together for a year after the final episode of Vanderpump Rules has aired. So that would be the reunion episodes that aired back in June. So as of next June, they'll be released from that, and they'll be able to film other projects outside of Bravo should they choose to. Now, I do know, this is where I'm like, I don't even know if they would all choose to come back, or if the current cast of people that we have left that haven't officially quit or been fired, if it would even make sense to do another Vanderpump Rules with them. So one thing that I do know is the cast ended up taking big pay cuts last season, which was season 8 when they brought in the newbies. I don't think the newbies were paid very, very little. They weren't even paid like a full salary. And I don't think I believe the cast members weren't paid full salary either. If my memory serves me correctly, they were paid a per scene rate, which was to encourage them to really bring the heat last season, which is why I think you see Sheena interacting with a lot of the newbies a lot more. And it really kind of forced everybody to step up their game to see, where we were going to trim the fat for the show moving forward. So they weren't paid their regular salaries that they were used to being paid. And I believe that was something that Bravo waited until like the very last minute to tell them. And I think, when you weigh out the pros and the cons, obviously you want to be on TV so you can sell your books, you can sell your merch, so you can have that opportunity. So I think they were okay taking that pay cut last season, but they weren't given the same salaries that they received prior. This was the network's attempt to really make them earn their paycheck this year. So I don't think, so with that pay cut, considering the pay cut and considering the cast members that we've lost, which were Stassi, Kristen, Jax, Brittany, Brett, did I already say Max? Brett and Danica. It hasn't been confirmed that Danica's been released, but I really don't see them bringing her back at all. I think there's just been too much collateral damage and too many scandals for them to even want to go there. I think it's just, it's safer for them to just move forward without her and probably bring somebody new in. But so let's break down who we currently have. So we have Lala. Lala has no allies left on the show, really. She's fighting with Sheena. She's not close with Ariana. That where they left things off the reunion wasn't great. And Ariana, when she was on my show, said that she's Team Sheena in all of this, and she wasn't happy with where the beef with Lala and Sheena was. And I don't think that there is much of an opportunity for them to have a friendship. Sheena's already said she's absolutely done with Lala. Lala doesn't have Stassi, Kristen, or Brittany, who she's the closest to. She just had them on her podcast where she did the baby daddies and the baby mamas episode. So Lala doesn't have many allies. I think if anything, she would probably have Katie, and I don't know if Lala and Katie are all that close. I think Ariana and Katie have somewhat of a friendship, but I don't know if it's all that deep, to be honest. When Ariana talks about her friendship with Katie, it seemed like they have a light little friendship, but it doesn't seem like it would probably be like a superficial friendship for the show that would kind of be fun, which is where I think a TomTom spinoff would really work. But I think Lala has so far ostracized herself from the current cast members of who we have left. She's had the hot and cold relationships with James and Raquel. So I just don't think it would make sense for her. I don't think she would think it would make sense for her to return to the show. Now let's move to Sheena. So I think Sheena should quit the show and shouldn't move forward with the show at all because, one, the show hasn't been very good to her. And I think at this point, she's built enough of a following and star power outside of Vanderpump Rules to be successful on her own. If you look at her YouTube channel, if you look at her Instagram, she's really built a foundation for herself, and she's had enough credits outside of Vanderpump Rules at this point that I think she could actually be, if anybody was looking to sell a spinoff to another network, I think her and Brock can sell a spinoff as new parents to like E. I think that would be like a fun, and I think E's definitely going to be in a position where they're going to be looking for some new content. I think it would be really risky of them to give Stassi a spinoff. I think Stassi will get a spinoff. I don't know where she'll end up with that spinoff or how that'll all come to be. Stassi's not out of a job and not out of a paycheck. We just need the dust to settle and for her non-compete agreement to expire in June, and then Stassi will be fine. Like I said, I think she's probably been filming stuff at home during her pregnancy. She'll probably release something on YouTube or probably something to launch her podcast when she brings that back, but Stassi's not going anywhere, and I think Sheena at this point is the only one that could have a spinoff outside of Vanderpump Rules and outside of Bravo. She's the one that has enough of the power to be able to hold that and doesn't come with any scandal. Jax and Brittany have scandal. Stassi has scandal. Kristen has scandal. I don't think Dana or Charlie were big enough to be able to carry the show. Lala even kind of comes with some scandal. A lot of people wanted her off Vanderpump Rules. We see all of the drama that she's now in with Randall and his finances and not paying his people, and there are a lot of headlines around that. So I don't think Lala necessarily can have that spinoff just yet, but I think Sheena is most likely to do that. And I think at this point, the show has not been good enough to her. The edits have been terrible. The network hasn't really been very supportive of her, that I think Sheena deserves to just move on and can really do her own thing and will be very successful without Vanderpump Rules. Katie, I don't think has enough strong ties to the current cast. Like without Lala, I think Katie is really kind of, she would have to forge a relationship with Ariana. And I think they do have somewhat of a fun, playful relationship, but I don't know if it's really as deep or in depth as the relationships that we came to really appreciate on Vanderpump Rules. And I would hate for it to feel forced. So I feel like formula-wise, the show just doesn't work. The only real relationship and friendships that we would see that would be really well, that would work really well on the show are Sheena and Ariana and Tom and Tom. I think at this point, those are the only ones that I think would really do well, that we would really appreciate and love to watch on the show because they would be the most genuine. Whereas we saw when you mix in all of these newbies with the OGs, there's a disconnect and it doesn't necessarily work. I think especially because even we know we're not going to see Brittany, Jax, Stassi, or Kristen, and yet those are still core people in that group of friends that I think it's going to be really weird and tricky to film without them. So I think formula-wise, it doesn't work. I don't know if I would even really care to see it. I feel like this last season really struggled, and we still had a lot of those friendships. We saw the Tom and Jack's friendship and how that was coming together and then falling apart, and that sort of struggle, but it felt really genuine. We saw the Witches of WeHo friendships kind of come together and fall apart, and that felt really genuine. So I think unless we have those sort of real relationships, it'll be like where we, are feeling like the Housewives franchise, that those are a little fake because we're trying to forge these relationships and push this drama and create something that's just not there. And I think as fans, we're starting to really see through that. And especially since the reality shows are starting to pull back and break that fourth wall, I think we need more of that genuine relationship in order for it to actually work. Now, a lot of fans are like, well, I think Randall should go off and launch his own spinoff with all of the cast members outside of Bravo or away from Bravo. Now, I think, so that is definitely not an option or a possibility. One, because Randall doesn't own the IP to Vanderpump Rules. So I think there's a really good chance that if he were to try to launch his own, he's very likely to get sued. And I think he's in enough hot water with his finances and with his other scripted projects that I don't think that would necessarily be the smartest move or decision for him to make. So we will see. I know Jax and Brittany are trying to shop a spinoff right now. I think they thought that because Jax and Brittany Take Kentucky did so well that would be an opportunity for them to launch their own spinoff. As Tamara Tattles has reported, Jax and Brittany's spinoff was turned down by Bravo. Again, I think there is a little too much collateral damage. I could see them going off and doing like something on MTV. But I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if like Jax went on to join the Challenge franchise and, tried to build something there. I think that would actually work for him. But I think his ego at this point is a little too big that it'll be tricky to see how that all kind of shakes out. But yeah, there is no chance of Randall producing a spinoff. He can't do it. Unfortunately, that model is technically owned by Lisa Vanderpump and the other producers that I don't know if they've copywritten the idea, but I would imagine, or if I don't know what that looks like necessarily, but I just know he doesn't own that concept. And in that world, unless you have some sort of licensing deal, he wouldn't be able to do that. So I have my own independent sources, and according to my own sources, yes, the cast has been left out of the dark. Nobody really knows what's happening. Everything is still technically up in the air, but everything is kind of at that point where it's set to expire, and I don't know if Bravo's necessarily looking. They're weighing their options, but I don't think a decision is going to be made this month. I don't think a decision can be made this month because, again, everything in Los Angeles is shut down. Productions have to be really limited. I don't even know if the cast is willing to just jump back into filming, and again, the current cast members that they have, I don't think that formula works. I don't think that us as fans would enjoy it. I think it would feel stale, but at the same time, there was so much money in Vanderpump Rules that I don't think Bravo or Evolution are necessarily ready to just scrap it all together. I think they're going to milk that cow until it's completely dry, until it's like spitting out powder. Formula powder. That cow is going to continue to get milked, and I think the best way for them to do that, which I know they're considering, or the most likely scenario, is a TomTom spinoff, because they could get the OGs to still participate in it, and it's the best way to keep the OG cast without necessarily having that tarnished scandal, and we can bring some of them in without having to address some of those things that I think Bravo doesn't really want to address. We would get the Toms, we would get Katie, we would get Ariana. It would just feel like a fun, fresh breath of fresh air, which I think we could really use, and you'd be able to really keep the cast members and have, an enjoyable show birthed from that. I don't think it would be as highly rated as Vanderpump Rules, but I think it's a really good chance to keep the ratings, keep the fan base, and not necessarily let it dial together and lose out on that money. And I do think the network is probably going to try. I know Evolution is trying to really push for a Vanderpump Rules reboot. Whether or not that's really going to come to fruition is up to Bravo at this point. And again, nothing has been confirmed. And even with Andy Cohen speaking out, Andy didn't confirm the series is coming back. He's just like, I don't know when it's going to film, but I look forward to seeing where it goes. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. If the show hasn't been picked up, if it hasn't been greenlit, if there aren't casts with offers in their hand, which I can confirm that there are not, then there is no as of right now, everything is up in the air. So canceled is kind of a loose term to use. I think we have to wait for an official word from somebody. But I think the fact that none of the other cast members have really spoken out says a lot. The fact that Bravo hasn't really spoken out also says a lot. So we'll see. But I think a rebooted Vanderpump Rules is likely. It won't be as successful as the first, but it'll be a good way to, again, milk that cow and try to, maintain that fan base and probably even try to build a new fan base. But as we've seen with this reboot culture, they're never as popular as their predecessor. They're never as popular as the originals, and I don't think it will be either. I can see Charlie kind of being brought into a rebooted Vanderpump Rules to lead the show. I can also possibly see them trying to integrate Dana. I think Charlie is probably their best bet in terms of having a successful spinoff or a successful reboot of Vanderpump Rules. I personally don't like Charlie all that much. I find her a little annoying. I hear that she's not as annoying as I think that she is, but I don't know. I can even see them working in James and Raquel as OGs to help kind of build that rebooted version of Vanderpump Rules. At this point, everything's up in the air. It's all kind of TBD. I don't think they would be bringing Danica back with the domestic violence allegations out against her. So I think at this point, Charlie, Dana, James, and Raquel have a chance of launching this rebooted Vanderpump Rules, and the TomTom spinoff is probably their best bet moving forward. That's what I got for you. Everything, again, is still up in the air. So there is really no confirmation of whether it's coming back, how it's coming back, where it's, going to be. I know Evolution really is trying to push it, and they're willing to even do like what they did with Lisa Vanderpump, where they are launching Vanderpump Dogs on Peacock. So TBD, everything is still up in the air. As of right now, there is no Vanderpump Rules set to return. So Kate Casey, Andy Cohen have very good wishful thinking, but I think I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm siding with Tamara Tattles, and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to come back, but I do know, even with Scandal, if they can make money off of it, they're going to try to make money off of it, so there's going to be something that will come of this. Do you want to see a Vanderpump Rules reboot? Do you think a TomTom spinoff would be enjoyable to watch? What would you like to watch? Maybe that should be the open question that you can put in the comments below. What would you like to see happen with Vanderpump Rules now that we know that we do know for sure that the Vanderpump Rules that we knew, that we loved, that we appreciated without Kristen, Stassi, Jax, and Brittany, the original Vanderpump Rules that we came to know and love is dead. It's done. That's never going to come back. So what do you want to see? Let me know. Give me a follow at Just Plain Zack. Follow the show at No Filter with Zack. Join our private Facebook group on Facebook, our Reality Tea Facebook group. It's really good, really juicy, really fun. And yeah, feel free to slide into my DMs. Let me know your theories. If you're listening to this or watching this, post on your Instagram story. Be sure to tag me at Just Plain Zack and at No Filter with Zack, and I'll be sure to repost you. All right, guys, I will talk to you Wednesday. This Wednesday, I have the hosts of Bravo's The Daily Dish on the show. It's a really fun episode. We are breaking down the biggest Bravo TV moments of 2020. So everything that we saw in the shows this year, we picked some of our favorite moments. Some of you guys shared your favorite moments on Instagram, so I gave you guys some shout outs. So stay tuned this Wednesday. Eric J. Mack and Megan Segura from Bravo's Daily Dish are recapping 2020 with me on #NoFilter with Zack Peter. Stay tuned. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Bye.